Welcome everyone to another Conversations in the Void. I am your host, Graveyard, here as usual as our special Sunday night presentation continues for the spooky season of October. And I'm pleased to introduce our guest. He is a recurring guest now. This is the second time on. Writer, director, producer at Filmmakers with works including Let's Scare Jessica to Death, Prancer, and Wolfen. Please welcome back to the Void, the one and only John D Hancock.
Oh, what an intro. Hi. Glad to be here.
Yes, I'm glad to have you back. I know we determined last time too that just one episode's not enough for you. You have a lot of work, especially with Prancer coming out for 35 years. We'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah.
So how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. It's kind of strange weather, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
I had a rain yesterday, lasted about 7 minutes, and it looked like snow.
Really?
Well, or wet hail. I don't know. It was very strange.
Yeah, well, as you know, from the Midwest area here, it could be 30 degrees at night, but 88 during the day.
Yeah.
I definitely feel that because I had to redo my deck in the extreme heat and prepping for the rain and cold. So it's just, gotta love the weather here.
Where do you live in Chicago? Oh, you don't live in Chicago. You live in
Northwest Indiana. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm just about 35 miles west of you.
Right. Yeah.
But John, like I said, welcome back. And, I want to talk a little bit about Prancer because it's 35-year anniversary this year.
Yeah, and LaPorte and Three Oaks are gearing up to really celebrate it. They're going to have a parade in Three Oaks and a big screening in the Civic Auditorium in LaPorte. And Sam Elliott is coming, and the actress that played the little girl, Rebecca Harrell, and the lady that played the aunt, and the butcher. I mean, it's going to be very festive. They're going to give away antlers on the street in Three Oaks and have a walk of fame. So anybody that crossed in the background of a shot is going to have their footprints on the sidewalk. I hope it doesn't snow to cover the footprints. But
when is that happening?
The 14th and 15th of December.
Oh, wow. I mean, this, like I said, this area here, you never know. It could be, 50 degrees. It could be negative 10.
Right.
No, but that's exciting. I mean, did you ever expect Prancer to have this draw 35 years later?
No, I didn't. My wife did. My wife said, "Oh, it'll be a classic." I didn't really want to do it. I didn't want to do a picture about a little girl and a reindeer. But she said, no. I said, but the dialogue is terrible. She said, "Oh, I'll fix it for you." And she did. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Like I said, it's almost as old as I am.
Ha!
I remember watching that as a kid too. Yeah. I was born in '84, and
okay. Well, you were almost the right age.
Yeah, and growing up where I'm at, obviously, A Christmas Story came out in the '80s, and that takes place literally the town next to mine.
Right. Yeah.
And I didn't know it at the time, that Prancer was really shot in our area. Right. In my area, because you don't really think about that stuff when you're a kid of typically where it's shot unless you recognize the building.
Right, sure.
But yeah, I mean, it's exciting, and it is a classic, movie for sure. My one of my good friends, I had you on last time. I was telling him about the show. He goes, "The guy that did Prancer?" I go, "Yeah." He's like, "That's amazing," because he grew up on it too.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, his wife's from Michigan. He's from this area too. So
it's especially a big deal where it was shot. I mean, people are very enthusiastic.
Yeah. And I know we discussed a little bit, last time too, but we talked about having to really shoot things in LA back in the day, and even still to this day. But you made this classic right here in the Midwest, between Indiana and Michigan.
I even think Garth Drabinsky is going to come. He's going to drive down from Toronto. I don't know if you know who he is, but he was the head of Cineplex Odeon when it was the biggest chain of theaters in North America.
Oh.
And he then somehow went up against Lou Wasserman at MCA and lost that battle like anyone would do who fought MCA. And then he invented a company called Live Ent.
I've heard of that.
Yeah. But while he was at Cineplex, he financed Prancer.
Okay.
That was his money that did it. So he's coming, I hope, to be glorified. But at Live Ent, he won a bunch of Tonys, but then he got in trouble and I think inflated box office returns to keep the stock price up. And at any rate, he went to jail. And I visited him at the Beaver Creek Correctional Institution in Ontario. And he did 6 or 8 or 9 months, you know.
Yeah.
And but he's still active and he's still, you know, producing musicals and things. And actually is a good friend of mine and a wonderful guy. A little stock fraud, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Who hasn't done that, right? I mean, you know, why do you think Prancer's had such a lasting impact as a movie?
I think the cast is good. I think we got very lucky with the little girl, and Sam is splendid in it. And we got lucky with the weather, and the snow got freshened up almost every other day or every day, so that it looks wonderful. It doesn't look like dirty, you know, sooty snow. It was a good place to do a movie too. We got a lot of cooperation, and it's very pretty. I think Misha Suslov, who recently died, did a good job photographing it. I mean,
when did you shoot it? What time of the year? Obviously, the winter.
Yeah, January, February, and I think a week into March. One of the scenes we hear frogs in the background of the sync tracks, but we covered it up with wind and snow. And
yeah, in this area, in the Michigan area too. I mean, January and February are some of the coldest days of the year too.
Right. Well, we were smart. We took over a vacant factory in Panola, Indiana, which is a little place west of LaPorte, and built exterior sets. We built a country road, and we built a street in Three Oaks, so that the night we didn't have to shoot that much at night exterior. Your judgment goes if you're too cold. You think, oh well, that's enough. Let's go home.
Yeah,
I didn't want to commit that, you know, sin.
Yeah.
So we were able to shoot at a decent temperature in the factory.
Well, that's
with
good.
Potato flakes for snow. You know, we had a big special effects department blowing, you know, potato flakes up in the air and down on us. And we also had a huge art department that we had a very elaborate sets.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, I mean, you know, especially we discussed practical and CGI. All this is obviously practical. I mean, how much pre-production is really required to make this movie happen?
Well, a lot. I mean, it was over an intense period of time, but we used it well. I mean, we had a wonderful production designer, and made good use of matte paintings. You know, there were no sledding hills around here. So we had to marry a sledding hill that was in a park with a house that was elsewhere and make them appear to be contiguous. And it's seamless. We brought it off, you know.
Yeah. It's the power of movie magic.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, I would love to come up there and go see this event too, just because it's not that far from me.
Oh, you should.
Yeah. I don't know if my wife is bigger into the Christmas spirit than I am, but I don't know if she's seen or showed my kids Prancer yet. I'll have to ask her.
How old are your kids?
9, 10, and 13. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's right now we're in this, spirit of Halloween just because that's our household's very heavy in Halloween too.
You decorate outside and everything?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You have
It's,
skeletons crawling up the side of the house?
yeah. Yeah. It's my wife, since we last talked, I filmed part of our last movie that just came out last week at my house.
Okay.
And we had an actress that couldn't make it. So we had to have another victim for our movie.
So your wife filled in as the victim?
She did.
Was she pleased?
No, not in the slightest. But our other actor that was playing the killer couldn't make it down from Michigan either. So I had to be
So
the
you got to
stand-in.
kill your wife?
I did.
Well,
I did.
I suppose it makes a good marriage.
Yeah, yeah.
You
But
get it out in fantasy.
yeah, her payment was more Halloween decorations for the outside.
That's great.
But yeah, it's like I said, the things you do to make a movie happen, right?
Oh my God, yes. Huh?
But I know, and kind of working at your newer work too, that I noticed that you worked a lot with a couple of people like Jeff Puckett on multiple projects.
Have you used him?
No,
You should. He's in this area.
is he?
He's a steel worker in what used to be Bethlehem Steel. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I know Bethlehem Steel. My dad was a inland steel worker.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so. But I mean, with someone like Jeff, obviously you're getting someone local. Do you find it easier to work with some of the same people over multiple
Oh, I
projects?
really do. Yeah. You develop a common vocabulary, and you know what they can do, and you don't have to direct them that much. And
Yeah,
there aren't terrible surprises.
you hope not.
Well, yeah, you hope not, right?
Yeah, and with what I do, it's the same thing. I work with a team, and there's 6 of us as part of this production team. 3 are in like Reno, Nevada area, and the 3 of us, or the other 3, are in this area. So one of the directors is about 60-ish miles south of me. The other guy is just in Michigan.
And you come together, all 6 of you, on each project, or?
No, they are kind of we call them the west side of the country, and we're the east side of the country. So,
and how do you finance it? How do you
all ourselves?
Yeah,
yeah, we are micro budget indie stuff. We have hopes to get bigger budgets for a lot of our other projects that we want to do.
Do you pay for people's gasoline, or do you make them donate that? You buy lunch? Do you have pizza on the
Oh
side?
yeah. Oh yeah. We buy lunch. We get the hoteling as well. So
right.
But it's something that we want to grow into.
Oh, you own the equipment though.
Yes,
lights and cameras and yeah, good.
Yeah, I actually just purchased a Black Magic camera.
Good.
That I'm writing some shorts that we're doing, and that I want to use my equipment and film. So, like I said, guerrilla shooting, right? We weekend warriors try to do what we can over months.
Right. Sure.
So,
well, you get the films made that way. I mean, rather than just letting the script sit.
Yeah. And with my co-host, he has a script that he's working on. He's like, I need a bigger budget. I'm like, I looked at it, yeah, you do. It's
what are you going to do?
He wants to do essentially because it's horror, but he likes sci-fi a lot more. So what he wants to do is think of like a possession movie, but it's technology.
Right.
So it's essentially like, as people go into the future, get parts, computer parts and robot parts in them, have like a computer virus essentially take over their body.
So you're going to have trouble with locations and sets and what?
Yeah. And the special effects required to do these prosthetics.
Right.
So, But we realize it's going to take a budget. We realize that, and we're working towards bigger things.
Yeah.
So, but you talk about these close knit people. I mean, it's definitely makes life easier when making a project, right? Working with the same people.
If they're good.
If they're,
Yeah.
I mean, do you typically call your circle of trusted colleagues when you're working on something?
I do. Sure. I have an editor I've done, 7 or 8 things with, and Misha, who just died, the same, and
Mm-hmm.
and the actors. I try to Rebecca, that played the little girl, I used her in suspended animation. I used her in a television show. I used her in A Piece of Eden. I mean, she's in the stable.
Mm-hmm.
Not anymore. She's out directing herself now and making documentaries that go to Cannes with her husband.
Oh, wow.
She's very environmental and believes in walking barefoot on the soil.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but that's got to be a good feeling to help get someone into that footing and be able to grow in this industry.
Yeah. I've always had a strange feeling. A lot of people that I work with decide they want to direct, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I always think it's because they think, well, if this guy can do it, Jesus, I ought to be able to do it. So I'm not certain if it's a good or bad, Maybe I should be insulted, but I try not to be.
Yeah, I for me, from what I've worked on, I always found editing to be the most painstaking process.
I love editing. You don't like it?
No.
No, really? Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's fine, except I put myself into the things too. So like, if it's me, I don't want to look at myself and edit myself.
Yeah, right. That must be very hard. I've never done that. I would be very hard to judge my own performance, which was the good take. Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to almost appoint somebody else to help you with that, I think.
Yeah.
But then you don't necessarily trust them entirely.
Right. And that's really the issue. Is like, I'll watch the movies we're making. As soon as my scene comes on, like, all right, I know what happens here and how it looks. I'm just gonna go somewhere else for that part.
Yeah.
But I showed my kids the trailer of our movie that we just did, and they like, hey, that's our kitchen.
I know. I shot The Looking Glass in the house where I am right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it. And it is so strange to watch it in that house. It really is. I mean, you watch it in the living room, and the living room is in a lot of the scenes,
Yeah. So John, with projects that you pick and choose now, do you have any things that you look for when doing a project?
Well, I try to think if it will actually happen. I mean, I've spent a lot of time on things that don't happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel a certain obligation to not do that, and that's hard not to do. I like things that are bittersweet. I don't like things that are only funny or only scary or only sad.
Mm-hmm.
I like a mixed tone. I look for that. I'm not crazy for science fiction. I'm not crazy at all for end of the world things. I like good dialogue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you can always forgive, let's say bad CGI or a bad practical effect when the story's riveting, when you're just enthralled with the characters.
Yeah.
I think you hit it right nail ahead. It's the good dialogue, right? If you have good dialogue, you are invested in the story.
Right. And in a way, it's kind of a God-given gift. There are people that write dialogue fluently, and then there are others that really struggle with it. And my wife was particularly gifted at how people talk. And it was a real asset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, I use my co-host. He loves to write. So when I'm writing stuff, I go, hey, does this make sense?
Right. Yeah.
So,
well, there's making sense, and then there's also just effective lines too, that sound real.
yeah.
I don't find it's not my it's not the thing that comes easiest to me. Sometimes though I'll get in a flow and am able to rip off a really effective dialogue scene, but I can't call it up at will. It has to happen. The thing that I've finished now that we've got one of the top managers in the world is trying to put it together. It's called A Love Story, and it's about a New York policeman who falls in love with a female serial killer. And the scene where he finally catches her just came in to me involuntarily. I mean, it's a really good scene, and what they say to each other just flowed like the characters were talking. I didn't feel I was writing it.
Okay.
I was just copying down what they were saying. And that's that's how it all should feel.
Mm-hmm.
But it's hard to bring that out in, voluntarily. It's not subject to will always.
Right.
It's what we're, the Stanislavski system is very much pointed towards inducing that state in the actor, and it carries over into writing too, that where you feel you're there and it's being animated by something subconscious or beyond you, or
Yeah. You are there as the characters are talking.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever just wake up in the middle of the night and go, oh man?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. And I try to get up and write it down.
Yeah.
I have an enlarged prostate, so I wake up a lot in the middle of the night. So it's easy for me to wake up and copy down ideas. And actually, I have found that I in certain screenplays, I've solved some of the problems in the middle of the night like that. It's like my mind is working to solve them.
Mm-hmm.
I was writing something where the guy was being chased by dogs, and I didn't know how he was going to get away because he had to get away for the rest of the story, right?
Right.
And I woke up in the middle of the night. Well, he has to climb a cliff. Simple. The dogs can't climb a cliff, so
right.
That's a middle of the night solution for a production problem, for a writing problem.
Yeah, I know. As I over the past couple of years shifted into content like this and writing too, that I used to make beer, and so I always had like an idea for something pop in my head for a beer, and I couldn't concentrate anything else until I got the idea written down somewhere.
Right.
And I'm finding that with the shows I'm doing, with ideas for episodes, that I have this working document now. It's probably our podcast page is probably about 250 pages now from all our past stuff and our future stuff as well. And I think I'm planning episodes like 5 months in advance at this point.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm just going, you know what? I something just triggered my thought process. My light bulb went off. I'm like, all right, I want to do this, and so I'm working on making that happen.
That's great.
So,
do you have a day job?
Yes. Yeah.
What do you do?
IT work, computer work.
Oh, great. Okay.
So it's not creative at all. Right. So making beer was my creative outlet, and then doing these shows and now doing movies is my creative outlet. I always have to do something.
Oh yeah.
Because
I know the state.
Yeah. because, like I said, computers aren't fascinating to me at all.
Well,
But
I wish I was better at them.
But talk about creative processes. We didn't really touch base on this, but Wolfen, right? You were brought on to work on that after someone else, right?
Yeah, Mike Wadley was the director, and he shot, I don't know, 90% of it. And then he wanted to go back and clean up what he hadn't shot, but he put together a rough cut that was 4 hours and something.
Wow.
And refused to cut it. And Orion was about to go belly up. I mean, interest rate was running at 18 or 20, 22% at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And they had spent lavishly on sets and cast and shooting days, and were kind of disgraced in the business by not having anything to show. They couldn't screen it for anybody in the business because it was so boring.
Really?
So they fired Wadley and brought me in, and I finished shooting what wasn't shot.
Mm-hmm.
And took over the editing, and I had some good editors. I had Chris Levinson and Stuart Pepe, and we cut it down and made it into a scary movie.
Yeah.
As well as we could. I mean, with what we had.
Right.
I worked very hard on it.
But I mean, I
didn't want to put my name on it because it wasn't my work, and I didn't like it well enough to try to take over somebody else's work.
But I mean, what was it like stepping in and having that 90% filmed for you, and then trying to edit it down to something?
It wasn't hard. I mean, I knew how to make something scary. What he had a wonderful editor, Richard Chu, but they had gone totally out of perspective together because they were concerned about length. I mean, they were trying to move it as fast as they could, mm-hmm. so that it wouldn't be 5 hours instead of 4 hours, right?
Yeah.
So if you try to move scary stuff along, it's not scary anymore. You have to retard the pace.
Right.
You have to slow it way down so the audience wonders what's going to happen, and then hit them with a scare. And so I knew how to do that. So I was able to rather quickly make a big improvement.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't able to fix it entirely because they had decided to make an environmental tract out of what was a scary B-picture novel. It was a very, very scary book, Wolfen.
Mm-hmm.
But it was about a creature. And they had decided, no, it was going to be about how noble wolves were and how perceptive and godlike wolves were.
Yeah.
And wolves are like sad dogs, visually.
Mm-hmm.
They may have incredible gifts for telepathy or scent or something, but they're visually not wildly scary. I mean, scary was when I had a high fever as a small child, a wolf walked out of my closet in my bedroom on its hind legs. And that's what they needed. They needed a creature, not a real wolf. So I ended up shooting, they had committed to using real wolves. So I shot their wolves and we made them snarl and look as scary as they could. But I mean, if they'd let me do what I wanted, I would have reshot a lot of it with a creature.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want it. They already had too much money in it. They didn't want to chase.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's been Wolfen's about 81, and it's seemingly like it's become a huge cult classic at this point in time too.
It has?
Yeah.
81 was it, or is it later than that, or
Was it? It was 80s, I know.
82, 83, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, 81. Yeah.
Okay.
And, I think that it's another thing that's just another testament of time that, things that may not be critically successful or commercially successful,
Yeah, they're
especially
like
in horror
wine, they
movies.
improve in the barrel.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think
they find the people that will like them or something like that. Yeah.
And it really just takes one person to go, you know what? Here's this forgotten gem
Right.
that you really should see. And I think that's happening more and more with especially 70s and 80s movies that people go, man, how come no one's ever seen this?
When I was on your show before, did we discuss Weeds?
No.
Well, I made a picture called Weeds for Dino De Laurentiis with Nick Nolte about a prison drama group they go on and they're on tour of colleges and regional theaters, and it's funny and dramatic and moving, and it's really I'm very proud of it. And when Dino went belly up, his company, DEG, somehow they lost the negative and they lost any record of who owns it. Part of his bankruptcy, it was sold to Canal Plus, and then they sold it to Credit Lyonnais, who then sold it to blah, who sold it to somebody else, who sold it to somebody else. So that we haven't been able to find out who owns the rights, nor have we been able to find the negative. But I've been for a decade trying to find. There's never been a DVD, never been a Blu-ray. I want people to see it. I'm proud of it. So, maybe 10 years ago, I paid a big New York law firm a lot of money to research who owned it, and they came back with 20 single-spaced pages saying we can't determine who owns it. So it was like a lost picture. But there are people that in LA that specialize in finding lost pictures, and they actually found the negative.
Wow.
And it was a Technicolor where it should have been all along. They did the processing. I don't know if they did the release prints. I think they might have. But yeah, sure they did, because they have the elements for that.
Yeah.
And Technicolor, of course, is kind of out of business because nobody uses film much anymore, right?
Right.
And they wanted to get it off their dime in terms of storage. So they said, why don't you tell us you own it, and we'll give you the negative. Indemnify us against claims. And so I did. And I said, oh, I own it. So they gave me the negative. So it's going to come out. The negative has been scanned, and we're doing the color work now and putting together the extras, and it's going to come out as a Blu-ray.
Oh, wow.
And hopefully kind of some high-profile screenings in LA and New York and Chicago. But it's an unusual picture that a lot of people loved. And I'm anxious for a whole new generation to see it, because it's a Nick's best performance, and it's an unusual subject matter.
Yeah,
I'm proud of it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think a lot of people realize what they always go, oh, this movie never came out on DVD or Blu-ray. Why not? And it's just for what you said. You need that negative.
Yeah. And the negative is in good. I mean, it's been in Technicolor. It's in excellent shape, so that it didn't require any restoration. We just were able to, scan it and do it.
Yeah. I mean, I shudder to think about how many movies we've lost over the past 100 years.
Oh, yeah. That's tragic. Yeah.
Because you always have the one movie that played at one drive-in one time, and you just go, okay, what happened to it?
Right.
Everyone's like, we don't know.
Yeah. I mean, there are actually some major things, aren't there, too? I mean, things that were seen extensively that they can't find the materials for.
Yeah.
The AFI has done what they could to help with that problem, but
Yeah.
they've rescued a bunch of things.
And I would think that with the internet, that we have more people able to do the
Yes,
searching too.
we certainly use that to find it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I had spoken to, I don't know if you ever heard of the movie Manos: The Hands of Fate.
Mm-mm.
It was Aaron deemed it the worst movie ever created, and it had one screening.
Right.
And I was able to interview she was a little girl in the movie, but her dad was the villain in the movie. And hearing her story that in the 90s, all of a sudden her dad woke up. This is like 30 years later, it's like 1966 when it was made, was waking and watching Mystery Science Theater 3000,
He
and
saw
his movie was there. And they had purchased like a box of old reels, and Manos: The Hands of Fate was in there. And it was the only copy ever existed they could find.
Wow.
And so that TV show from the 90s saved that movie, because like we need this. We need a copy of this.
Is it any good? No.
I mean, I personally love it. I love cheesy movies too, though. So it's good for what it is. Like I said, and talking to the people that made it, it really brings it to a new light, because you could say a movie's bad, but you talk to people. Like I said, it's a miracle movies get made.
Yeah.
You know,
Was it a big budget project?
no, it was almost an art house project,
Right.
where it was just, an art teacher made, the set designs of paintings and everything, but it was just a small knit crew that put together a movie.
Where was it shot?
I think it was in Nevada.
Okay.
But it's become a cult icon that people have made sequels to it now in in 2018, 50 years later.
Wow.
They even got to have the original villain from the first one. He was in the sequel 50 years later. And the Jackie Newman Jones, she's trying to make a TV show out of it now too.
Wow.
So you
There's
never know.
a documentary coming out about Wolfen.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've interviewed everybody involved, including the original director and me, and the various producers, and done just a lot of interviews. And it'd be interesting to see that.
Yeah, you'll have to keep me posted.
Yeah,
when it comes out, because like I said, I love the making of things, because
I do too. Yeah,
like I said,
we're interested in inside gossip.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But like I said, I love behind the scenes stuff. I love hearing everyone's story.
Right. Well, you're going to get that from that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you don't have any idea when it's coming out?
No, I would have thought it would have been out by now, but I think they're just finishing it up. Stu Buck is the guy that's putting it together.
Okay. Yeah.
He did a Blu-ray of Let's Scare Jessica to Death, and I did a commentary track on that. That's how I know him.
Well, what was it like to do a commentary track on
it was fun. I was being recorded in Chicago, and my good friend Bill Bottolato, who produced it, was recording from Hollywood. So we got to chat about the various lighting problems as we were watching it. It was fun talking to my friend.
Yeah, that's great. I think we discussed this before, but with some of the stuff I'm working on, I go, you know what? Since I love behind the scenes stuff, I bought $150 camcorder and gave it to a PA. I go, hey, shoot everything.
Did it turn out? Have you cut it?
Haven't cut it. We have all the files and footage, and like I said, the movie was just released literally last week. So I'm working with the director. I was AD on it and producing too. So I'm like, we should do something with this.
Yeah, we should. The last picture I did is Girls of Summer, and we had a guy shooting everything, and it came out real well.
Yeah.
Yeah. It came out embarrassingly like a puff piece for me and the leading actress, but that's okay. I mean, praise. I like praise.
There you go. You know, do you have any advice for behind the scenes compiling of anything?
Don't have everybody talking how wonderful the principals are. You know,
Yeah,
it's like it's it's like they're talking about Jesus Christ. You know,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I mean, I'm nice, but I'm not that nice.
Yeah, it's funny because while watching the movies for my next show, my other podcast I do, I'm watching the movie and I go, wait a minute, I know some of these people personally, and it's weird for me to be able to say that now
Yeah,
when watching a movie. I go, what, you know, I'm like, I don't typically do independent movies, horror movies
right.
on my other show. I go big budget just because and
More
stuff like
people.
that.
Yeah.
More people, and like I said, I don't, you know, I don't cross these two shows just because I talk to people like yourself or independent creators, and I just go, I don't want to tear them down. I just want to have a conversation,
Yeah, right.
you know. But I'm just going. This is bizarre for me to see someone I personally know and I'm going to be working with next year as well.
Well, it won't hurt you.
Yeah. All right, John. Well, it's
It's
about
been
that.
great talking to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we go, give us the pluggables again. Where can we see Prancer Palooza?
In Three Oaks on the December 14th, and in LaPorte on December 15th.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, John.
Thank you for having me. I always enjoy talking to you.
Yes, and we'll have to discuss maybe next month coffee.
Okay, great. I'll talk
So,
to you soon.
all
Okay.
right. You have a good night. All right. Bye.